Jumbo Brothers, today we're talking about one of the most fundamental topics for survival, hiking and bushcraft. I made this video with one goal. You watch it once and you will understand everything you need to know about footwear. Why this is so important? Let me explain. The shoes you take on a hike determine a lot. I'd say about 50% of your hike success comes down to your footwear. It's probably the most important piece of gear. Here is the thing. With good shoes, you will reach your destination. With bad ones, you will have nothing but trouble. You can even get injured and not make it anywhere. Basically, I'm going to cover all the little details on this topic. And after this video, you simply won't have any more questions. I promise. So, let's begin. So look, here in front of me is all the footwear I actually use. This is my standard kit and it covers me for absolutely every situation. So I've got lightweight summer slip-ons, regular trekking sneakers, military boots, the very ones I'm wearing right now, and separately summer and winter socks made from merino wool and gaiters. To make it easy to follow, we will go in order from the lightest option to the most serious and heavy-duty one. Let's start with these summer slip-ons. They were actually designed for the beach. You know, for surfers and people just walking along the shore. They're super light, really comfortable, and they take up almost no space in your backpack. But here's the cool part. Look, the sole is rubber and durable. And the best thing, it's really flexible. I can easily wear them even with socks. There are these Velcro straps here. They are for adjustment, I guess. But to be honest, I hardly even use them. The rubber sole is good for two reasons. On the one hand, it protects your foot. On the other, it's so thin you can barely feel it under your foot. The toe is protected. It's also rubber reinforced. So if you accidentally kick a rock, your toes will be safe. The upper part is made of some synthetic material. But the key thing is that it's breathable. Your foot doesn't sweat in it. So what are they actually for? I use them in three scenarios. First, when I go to sleep. You need some shoes always at hand. Imagine, you are already in your sleeping bag and you need to get up at night. You don't want to put on your full boots with laces. So I just slip this on and that's it. Super quick and convenient. The second scenario is then you need to ford a river. If it's not too deep and I don't want to soak my main boots. I tried different solutions and eventually chose these slip-ons. Here is the trick. I quickly take off my boots, put this on, cross the river, change back on the other side, and continue on my way, dry. And the third is the direct purpose. If I'm at the beach, I wear them to avoid stepping on something sharp. And of course you can use them as a camp shoes. I know a lot of people bring Crocs for that. But here is the thing. Crocs are bulky and take a lot of space. And I think slip-ons are much more convenient and practical. And it's obvious. They're great for all kinds of rafting trips. Anywhere you're working near water, on a river, basically they have a ton of uses. So yeah, it's a super handy thing, I highly recommend it to everyone. Storing them is a breeze. I roll them up in a small stuff sack. This is actually the sack from my sleeping pad, and it fits perfectly. They take up no space in the backpack. And if they get wet, they dry, I'll be honest, not super fast. It's synthetic material after all. But I solve it. I just hang them on the two carabines on the outside of my backpack. Like this. I'm walking and they just drying in the sun. So basically, these shoes have no real downsides, as long as you use them wisely and for their intended purpose. Alright, we are done with the lightweight slip-ons. Next up on our list are the trekking sneakers. So these sneakers are my workhorse, you could say. My go-to footwear for most hikes. This is the Speedcross 6 model from Salomon. I've tried a bunch of hours and I just keep coming back to this. For me, they are the best. And I wanna be clear about one thing, guys. I have no sponsors here. I'm not trying to advertise any brands to you just to boost their sales. For me, it's not about that. So my opinion comes only from my own experience. That's it. Alright, let's back to the sneakers. In my opinion, the main future here is the sole. Look at this special thread pattern. It helps you stay stable on all kinds of surfaces. It doesn't mean you will never slip. On ice, of course you will. But if you are moving through the forest, on soil, on sand, they just dig right in. You feel really confident. Plus, they have a very protected toe. If you accidentally kick something while walking, you can be sure your toes will be safe and sound. The next really convenient feature is the lacing system. It's more accurate to call it a tightening system, not laces. Lacing them up is a breeze. Look, there is this push-button mechanism. You just press it with 2 fingers, tighten the sneakers to your comfort level. And the coolest part, you tuck the leftover lace into this little pocket. And in the end, nothing is dangling or getting in the way. As for the insole, it's usually a comfortable enough one, but nothing special. I also want to point out that the wall cushioning system is very comfortable. It definitely softens the impact when your foot hits the ground. But I will say right away, it's not like a running shoes, where you feel like the sole is propelling you forward. That spring effect isn't here. These sneakers come in a version with Gore-Tex and without it. My model is without Gore-Tex. I have one particular issue. My feet sweat a lot. So in the summer, no matter what, my feet are always wet inside my shoes. And that is the exact reason I didn't get the version with Gore-Tex. Gore-Tex, for all its advantages, is still an extra layer. It reduces breathability a bit, and for my problem, that is a deal breaker. Now, if we are talking about the reliability of these sneakers, I have no complaints at all. Here is just one small issue with my right foot. Let me show you closer. See, after long use, I had to repair them a bit. It's only on the right sneaker. I took it to a repair shop and they added this leather patch here. They did a perfect job, excellent work. So I'm still using this pair with confidence and I'm sure they will last me a long time yet. Let's move on to my tactical boots. These are also Salomon. I used to have their Quest 4D Forces model. In my view, they are the perfect military boot, but for hiking they're a bit too heavy. So I settled to the XA Forced Mid Gore-Tex model. Now I want to explain why I lean towards military gear in general. You can see my pants, jacket and footwear are all military style. From my experience, manufacturers of specifically tourist gear pour huge money into marketing. As a result, you might buy something that doesn't have any unique properties but comes in a bright, flashy color. And you are essentially paying just for that marketing, money that could be spent much more wisely. That's the first point. And secondly, all the coolest, most durable tech first appears in the military. When you buy army gear, it might not be as pretty or glamorous, but you are sure of its reliability. You know it won't fail out in an emergency. And since we are talking about bushcraft and survival, that's our top priority. So I advise pay attention to military manufacturers with a long track record. The best method? Watch videos of special forces units. See what those guys wear, what footwear they use. And I assure you, very often you will see Salomon on them. I figure, if special forces wear Salomon, then it must be truly reliable gear. Now a couple of words about Gore-Tex. My boots have a Gore-Tex membrane. Besides all the advantages, it really is waterproof and adds extra insulation. I have an important note. Temperature-wise, I can walk in these boots in sub-zero temperatures, in snow with no problems. But this is very individual. My feet always sweat and hardly even get cold. Yours might be the opposite. Your feet get cold. Then you'd need either a warmer sock or a dedicated winter model. Salomon has those too. But Gore-Tex has one big problem. If water gets in from the top, inside the boot, then drying these boots on a trip is pretty much impossible. By the fire, using direct heat, you can do that. It ruins the membrane. Your only option is to change the wet sock for a dry one and dry out foot using your own body heat. There are no other ways. So keep this Gore-Tex future in mind when you're planning your road. Now about the specifics of my particular boots. This isn't a high-top boot, more of a mid-height, but despite that, it's seriously protected from all sides. The lacing system is almost the same as on the sneakers I showed earlier. It's just as easy to tighten and there is that handy pocket to hide the extra laces. Now imagine it's winter, your hands are frozen, your fingers are not working properly. Fumbling with regular laces is a real pain, but this option is super convenient and super fast. Press, tighten, tuck away and you're moving. Now let's talk in detail about the protection these boots offer. The toe is heavily reinforced. There is also protection on the sides. with special rigid inserts. And even though the boot isn't very tall, it does a great job protecting these ankle bones. Anyone who's ever bumped them will immediately understand what I mean and why it's so important. So in the end, you get a boot that is not too tall, light, but still very reliable. And by the way, it has the same aggressive tread pattern as the sneakers. So in these boots, you feel super comfortable and most importantly, confident. You are in complete control. If I compare them to my sneakers, they're almost the same in terms of size and feel. And that's a huge plus. They're just as comfortable to walk in, not buckly or heavy. But at the same time, the protection for your foot is on a wall-over level. Basically, I wear these boots even it's rainy or cold weather, thanks to the Gore-Tex membrane. Otherwise, in terms of feel and the load of your foot, they are almost no different from sneakers. Very familiar. So, if they are so similar, a logical question arises. Why do we even need these boots? It seems like sneakers are enough. Here you need to understand one simple but key idea. There is no single perfect one-size-fits-all footwear. Everything will depend on the specific situation and the exact conditions in which you plan to use your footwear. I've already said that footwear is the most critical piece of gear. And here is why. Let's be real. Imagine your shoes break on a hike. I am not talking about a one-day trip where you are 10 kilometers from the nearest town. I am talking about a real serious expedition, when you are deep in the forest on mountains. If your footwear breaks out there, you have nothing to replace it with. There are no reliable ways to make proper shoes from sticks and ropes. All those life hacks you see online are for show. In reality, they don't work. So, when you are heading out on a specific trip like that, you need footwear with a maximum safety margin. And here boots are far preferable to sneakers, because they are by nature more powerful, more reliable, more stable, and they offer much better protection for your foot. At the same time, it's important to understand, in boots like mine, you won't be going onto a glacier at 5,000 meters where you need crampons and it's minus 30 degrees. For that, there is special mountaineering footwear, and that's not what we're discussing here. We're talking about more down-to-earth, but no less serious situations. And also, I know there are fans of those big, powerful leather trekking boots. But for myself, I found that this tactical, military-style option suits me better. And for those who haven't tried boots like this, I highly recommend it. You will immediately feel the difference between military-grade gear and regular tourist footwear. Of course, this doesn't mean that classic leather boots are bad, not at all. It's just that everyone ends up choosing that is more comfortable for them personally. This tactical model I use turned out to be the optimal one for me, but for you it might be completely different. Footwear is a very personal thing. But there is one golden rule that applies to everyone. No matter which pair you ultimately choose, you must break them in before any serious trip. You don't want to end up heading out on a long, challenging hike in brand new, stiff boots. Trust me, that can ruin the experience of the best planned adventure. Now, there is another thing possibly even more important. I am talking about socks. Just imagine, you have the coolest, most expensive, most high-tech footwear money can buy. But if you wear the wrong socks with them, poor quality socks, then all the advantages of your super shoes just vanish. Let's look into this in detail right now. So, I've got socks from the brand Darn Tough in my hands. I've used socks from many different brands, but I consider this to be the most quality and reliable ones. These are classic trekking socks made from Merino wool, and these are summer socks. They use Coolmax technology. The summer ones are short and the classic ones are the standard taller length. Let me explain why you specifically need trekking socks using this classic model as an example. It's simple. They are made with a bunch of smart technologies. In all the areas where your foot usually rubs, the heel, toe, instep, the socks is reinforced. The very weave is designed so it doesn't slip down or bunch up. Simply put, every method here is aimed at one thing – preventing any chase of blisters. And this specific model is made from Merino wool. And that's super important, because Merino is a unique material. It's the only natural material with properties like this. It's warm, but it also dries very quick. It doesn't chafe even when wet. And one of its key qualities, Merino wool socks hardly smell at all, even after several days of wear. All of this becomes especially critical in situations where you simply don't have the option to take your shoes off. Let's picture this. You're wearing boots with a Gore-Tex membrane. It's great for keeping water out, but on the flip side, the breathability of such footwear is always lower than that of regular shoes. And this creates a very delicate balance. A balance between how much your foot sweats and the amount of moisture that can actually evaporate through this membrane. If this balance is upset, you end up in a situation where your foot essentially starts stewing inside the boot, like in a greenhouse. This is very relevant, for instance, during long travel, on a plane, on a train, where you can take your shoes off, or on a hike when you are misjudged with the weather. Let's say it's not as cold outside as you thought, and you wore very warm, thick socks. Your foot heats up, sweats a lot. But it's not cold enough outside for all that heat and moisture to dissipate. And again, you get the stew foot effect. This is a huge problem, because if you try to start a long trek with feet like that, you won't get far. Blisters and hot spots will appear almost immediately. And at that point, it doesn't matter what super socks or F-some boots you have, the discomfort will be unbearable. Now the summer version. They use Cool Max. That's a synthetic but a special one. Its job is to wick moisture away from your skin as fast as possible. Honestly, I personally believe that even in summer it's better to use good quality trekking socks made from merino wool. They come in different thicknesses, thin for heat, thicker for cool weather. Through trial and error, you will find what works for your physiology. But here is the golden rule you must never break. Never buy cotton socks or socks made from cheap synthetic blends. Because in cotton socks, your feet will sweat terribly. Cotton absorbs moisture like a sponge, but doesn't wick it away, so you're sloshing around in wet shoes. And in cheap synthetic socks, your feet will start to stink within just a few hours. And if they get wet, blisters are guaranteed. And you know what it means to get a blister on a hike. It's not just an oops that's uncomfortable. It usually means you pretty much have to stop walking, seriously. And here is the thing, blisters are no joke, they're a real problem. It not often happens to people who buy new boots and head straight out on a long hike. They didn't break them in, didn't prepare them. But new footwear, especially stiff leather boots, they're like rocks. They haven't molded to your foot yet. The inner seams are not stretched, everything is rigid. And if a blister has already formed, that is a real issue. I will make a separate video later showing you what to do in that situation. I'll tell you about the methods that actually work. But our main goal, to avoid it altogether. Everything comes down to choosing two things correctly. First, the footwear itself, and second, something many people forget, the right socks. So our main goal is to pick the perfect duo, footwear plus socks. They're like a system, they have to work together. And this system totally depends on the conditions. Here is what you need to constantly think about. What is the weather forecast? Is it a couple-hour hike or a multi-day trek? Will you have to cross streams or rivers or not? What kind of surface will you walking on? Sand, rocks, or maybe muddy forest and swamps? This is what you need to think about before you even step out. See, the key is in constant preparation. I say this in every video, 99% of a successful hike is your proper preparation beforehand. Everything is decided before you take that first step. This is exactly why you need to take footwear more seriously than anything else, because it's the one thing you can't replace with anything. Any improvisation here is a huge risk. You can't just hope for the best, thinking, oh, if a problem comes up, I will just figure it out based on my experience. Most likely you won't. Most likely, you will run into real problems, the kind you can handle on your own, and you will need help. This isn't like those YouTube life hacks, where you can make a long stick with a rope out of a stick and a rope. You know what I mean. Alright, let's move on to the next piece of gear. Gaiters. You know what those are? Simply put the protective covers for your boots and the bottom of your pants. Let me explain why you need them and how such a small thing can save your entire hike. I often hike in trail runners, and imagine dust, dirt, leaves can get inside. And the most annoying thing? Small pebbles. I'm not going to stop every 5 minutes, take off my shoes, shake out all the debris, then put them back on. If you do that, your walking pace will just plummet. This is exactly what gaiters are for. I use light day models, they are breathable so your feet don't sweat in them. Look how you put them on. It's very simple. They are attached to the boot's lacing, and at the bottom there is a special hook that goes under the sole. Everything sits rock solid, nothing falls out. I've walked dozens of kilometers in these gaiters without taking them off. They didn't slip down or get in the way. Very comfortable. And by the way, they work great not only with trail runners but also with boots. They are made of elastic material, so they stretch well and fit any footwear. I will be straight with you, gaiters are not mandatory piece of gear, but I still highly recommend them. Why? Because they're just convenient. It's a small comfort element that makes the hikes much more pleasant. At the same time, they weigh almost nothing and take up no space in the backpack. And another thing, they're easy to wash, which is very important. Actually, gaiters come in different types. There are heavy-duty winter ones for protection against snow, and there are lightweight ones like mine. Why don't I use the winter ones? Well, because I have those cool pants, but that's a topic for another conversation. So, there you have it. I've told you all the main tips and tricks regarding footwear, socks and gaiters. I hope it was interesting and you basically have no more questions on this topic. The most important thing is to always approach your choice wisely. Think before you go somewhere, analyze the situation. That's all from me. Thanks, brothers, for watching. Let's stay in touch.